Thank you. Hi, how are you? Okay, today we continue talking about parenting, children's education, and I would like to speak today about the older kids. We spoke about little kids last time, and so I'll start with a story. There was this principal of a school, it's a shiur, and he had this teacher that was not organized, very, very not organized, and careless. Sometimes, let's say, he'll come up with a certain regulations or rules. He'll gather the teachers, he'll tell them something. This teacher, this rabbi, always don't pay attention, always forgets, doesn't apply the rules that this principal tries to put in his yeshiva, and it bothered the principal very much. For a long time already, he wanted to fire him because he doesn't like the fact that he's not listening. But from the other side, he was a very, very good teacher. The students loved him. They knew the subject very well. Even the parents didn't complain about him. They liked him very much, so he couldn't just fire him. So okay, he got used to the fact that he's not organized and he's not paying attention to whatever he says. Until this incident. One time, a very, very wealthy man, a donor, came to the yeshiva to see if he would like to donate money to that institution. So the principal, before he comes, okay, he makes alert, he makes sure all the teachers are gathering up, and he asks them and begs them, make sure that the classrooms are neat, make sure they're clean, make sure the students will behave, make sure, and they really took it into consideration to make sure that everything works out perfectly, except this teacher. He didn't pay attention to whatever the principal said, and he had this kind of agreement with his students that if they will finish the whole Masechet, the whole Gemara, the whole book, whatever, he'll give them a prize. They will make a nice game that they were looking for a long time already. Bumping cars. Somehow he will tell the kids to turn over the chairs, and they will bump into one another, and they will make a lot of fun. And that was the day that this wealthy man came to that school, to that yeshiva. He goes from class to class and is very impressed. Everybody behaves, everything is so neat and clean and everything. Once they came to his room, the principal hears already from outside the screams, the yells, the kids are shouting, and they open the door, and everything is upside down, and the students and the teacher is with them on the floor, and they're making fun. He became so pale, the principal. He didn't feel comfortable. He didn't know what to do with himself. And the teacher right away, the rabbi, also got up and apologized in front of the principal, in front of that wealthy man. I'm sorry, whatever. And they continued on. The principal couldn't hold this very much anymore. He was so upset. He was so furious. But I told you, but I warned you, but you never paid attention. And he called him to his office. He tells him, "You're fired." He's like, "What do you mean? You're fired. I don't want to see you anymore. I don't care about you anymore. You're not listening, and you're not obeying, and you're doing whatever you want." And he was very, very upset. He was afraid that he's going to lose this big donation that he was anticipating for such a long time. He was hoping for this. He was looking for it. He was planning on it, and whatever. The story continues, and it doesn't really matter to us. He pleaded to stay. He has a big family, and he says no, and whatever happened. But a week later, something interesting happened. This principal gets a letter from the office of this wealthy man stating, I would like to donate a whole building to your yeshiva. What happened? He says, he says in the letter there, I was very impressed from the classes, from the teachers, but I saw that in other yeshiva as well. I saw how everybody is trying to be, nice and everything. Even though I did see in other yeshiva that the teachers are too firm with the students, too strict, and I didn't like it so much. Once I came to that class and I saw this rabbis playing so nicely with the children, they're having fun, you see the love, the interaction between the teacher and the students. I loved it, and I want to donate everything to you. You see what happens? So this teacher, this principal, he said, I never thought, never crossed my mind that such a thing can happen. He says, I learned from this that whatever you see in your eyes is not necessarily the whole story. And basically the eyes don't see everything. And then what we learn from this story is that, number one, we have to control our anger, because once we don't control anger, what kind of stuff can happen. And number two, it's so important to have this special bond, connection between teacher, students, between parents and children. And it is sometimes important to go down to their level, to see what interests them, and to be interested with what they're playing with all they get. Even though to you it looks like silly, it's not important, you have other things in your mind, you have to run errands, you have to run after your job or whatever, attend your family, take care of everything. But this is important as well, and this is what we're going to focus on today. Hello. So, when parents get angry, okay, anger is a signal for us usually that something needs our attention, okay? It's like a kitchen timer that you have that alerts you, okay, when the cake is ready, for example, and this anger informs you that someone have crossed the lines, that somebody, you put limits, somebody crossed this and hit you in a certain way, and now you have to do something to fix that situation, okay? Now, for example, let's say somebody blocks you as you're driving, you're in a car, somebody blocks you, and you cannot continue driving. What happens at that moment? Huh? Once you feel that you're limited, that you cannot continue on your way, you're stressed, you have to do so many things, right? Somebody limits you, so this gets into your brain, and the anger that gets up into you, right, signals you that there's some kind of a problem. And the problem is that instead of using this anger as just a signal, for a sign for us, we use it as a tool. We use this, and we start screaming on the kids. We start saying all kind of stuff on let's say to the driver ahead of us. You're upset at your husband. Why he's coming late? All these, are symptoms, but you use it. Anger is just a temporary solution to a problem that you have, and it looks to you that it works. Usually, when you get angry and you scream at your kids, at that moment it looks like it helps. You say to yourself, only after I scream at her, she got into the shower. Or she started sitting and doing her homework. Or she, I don't know, whatever. And you believe it's only because you scream. Otherwise, if you talk nicely to her and you tell her, they don't listen. So, but the truth is that when you use it very often, this tool of anger very often, so we tend to destroy relationship between parents and children, between husband and wife, between sometimes co-workers, boss and people that work underneath him, friendship, and all this type of businessmen. Okay, it's not good. And when you exaggerate in the response, the way that you are angry, you can make children to rebel against you, and or disobey you, or don't want to listen to you, or don't care even about what you say and how you say, and it doesn't matter how decibel, how high your screams, they are not listening. And this is something that we want to prevent, even from the point of the Torah, point of view of the Torah. You have to be careful that when you're angry, you can hurt people, hurt their feelings. You can act in a very arrogant way. You can use not nice language, or God forbid curse, and you can also be violent. So these are the things that we have to be careful. And before we want to educate our children, we have to start with us. Hannah, she was home when her son, her teenage son, came and declared that he was thrown from the yeshiva. She hears that and she doesn't know what to do with herself. Usually she's very much involved in education of her children. She would go to school, she'll talk to the teachers, she'll talk to the principal, she'll talk to this, she'll make sure, she'll try to, and she will rebuke her kids, she will tell them, she will scream at them, tell them what to do, how to do it, everything. But this time she kind of held herself, not to answer back. And her son is checking the limits, is provoking in her more and more. It's this kind of age sometimes, and he wants to see, am I loved? So he was thrown from the yeshiva. She learned later on that he answered very chutzpahdik to one of the teachers, and he couldn't stand it anymore. It's not the first time, it's not the second time. How much he begged them to accept him again, they didn't want to listen about that. So now he's home, and he checks her limits all the time. He's bothering his brothers. He's not listening. He's not obeying the time and the order of the house. He's getting up late. He's not going to daven on time. He, instead of learning something, he reads all kind of novels and he watches I don't know what, and it bothers her, and she holds herself. She doesn't say anything. In this situation, when you're answering back and you say all kind of things back, you make the problem worse.
So you just let them be? So
in this situation, she was holding herself, she was showing love, and he would have to, she'd still insist that he would go to shul, that he would pray, that he cannot do whatever he wants, he cannot really, but with warmth, not with rebuking all the time. You don't know anything, or sometimes it can come out of your mouth and you say, even in school they don't care about you, even your friends, even your teachers, even this and that, and you hurt and you hurt and hurt. He may not answer back, he may not say all kind of stuff, but he keeps it inside, and it's boiling him, and it's boiling inside of him. And one day it was just a burst, and who knows if he's going to run away from the house or whatever he's going to do. So this her son Eli, right? He is checking her and provoking her, and she doesn't answer. She kind of holds herself and she doesn't answer. And then Baruch Hashem, later on, a few months passed. It wasn't easy all this time that he was home. They found him a different yeshiva, and in that yeshiva he was really trying to be a good boy. He saw how hard it was when he was home, and he was really trying to take responsibility, to work on himself, to self-discipline himself, not to answer back to every teacher that tells him something. And slowly, he got, he was okay with that yeshiva, continue on, and Baruch Hashem, finished the school, everything was okay. Later on, married, and started having kids. Now his second son, when he was 6, they found to know, they made all kind of tests on him, he was wild, they found out he's a hyperactivity, okay? And yet, okay, her son, Eli, is still very patient with him and shows love and affection, and it looks like it doesn't bother it. And his mother asked him once, where do you have this strength to be so calm with him and so nice with him and to show him affection and love? What is this from? Where is this from? He tells her, from you. She's like, what? He says, I remember when I was teenager and I was trying to provoke on you so much and you didn't answer me back. And you was holding yourself. I knew it's against your nature because you were always involved, because you're always scared. You always used to go and fight with the teachers and do whatever and rebuke us and tell us what to do and on top of us and everything. But at that point, you were holding yourself, and I saw how you were holding yourself, and so I was trying to imitate you. And once I got into this yeshiva, I said to myself, I'm going to hold myself just for sake of my mother that was trying to hold herself so much. And now I know that he will, Baruch Hashem, you have medicine today, and with medicine, of course, it could be challenges, it could be controlled and everything, but you see that children, they imitate parents. Once they see that the parents, they show love, okay, no matter what, this is when you keep your kids by you. You don't send them away. You don't say something like, I don't want to see you anymore, or God forbid, stuff like that. So our obligation, our duty, is not to punish our children whenever they make us nervous, whenever they make us upset, but to teach them to distinguish between bad, between wrong, between good, and tell them when they behave not nicely. Now, when you want this education to be effective, you need to plan this thing ahead. You cannot just get out of your, on the spot to decide which punishment to give, or how to deal with a baby, or with a boy, or with a girl, or with this teenage, or doesn't matter which age. This cannot be in an impulsive way, this treating or punishment or something. You have to think, you have to plan ahead how you're going to deal with this boy or girl. Because once you want this education to be effective, you have to think what you do. Sometimes consult a rabbi or some smart people that understand in education what to do. We usually show our children how to behave in situations of anger. They see us how we behave at home. If we control our anger, okay, they will learn how to control it too. But if we don't know, and if somebody makes us upset, we start screaming and yelling, so they adopt it. They see that how we behave themselves. So when somebody, when your child drives you nuts, makes you crazy, right? You may tell him something like, I will start to get angry. Now, it's not that you're angry because of his behavior, because he learns that if somebody makes him angry, he's allowed to get angry. And he can blame his brothers and his sisters, he took my toy, so I hit him, I'm entitled, I'm allowed, because. Okay? And you may tell him, I'll sit down. And you also, Bemet, you have to learn how to work on it. Sit down, they say. Once you're sitting, this adrenaline that you have in your body of emergency responding, it comes down. Deep, breathe deeply, because it calms you down. Drink something. You can tell him, I'll think what to do, and baby, try to think about this. Don't take it out of your mouth right away what to do. And after you claim how you feel about it, okay, you tell him, I'll think what to do in this situation. Speak slow, speak quiet. And the Ramban says that if somebody wants to prevent himself from getting angry, speak, calmly, teach yourself. And then you make rules in the house. You tell your son, your daughter, your kids, they are not allowed to answer you disrespectfully. There's no such a thing that the child will scream at his parents, at his father, or at you. There's no such a thing. If he's screaming, you say, I'm not talking to you until you're coming down. You don't have to scream. You don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to say it in an angry voice. You just tell him, I'm not talking to you until you're going to get calm. Once you're going to get calm, you can find me sitting in the living room and come and talk to me. Otherwise, I don't want to talk to you this way. Okay?
He's screaming, yelling, rolling on the floor, louder and louder.
If they see that you're answering back, so they put more fire and you screaming, they screaming, you don't solving anything. You just make it all very hectic. But if you don't get provoked, if you don't answer back, you say, I'm not talking to you until you're getting quiet, or until you stop crying, or whatever, they will learn that they cannot continue this behavior. You're not going to listen to them. You're not going to come to any kind of agreement until they calm down. That's the way. So,
Like my kids, Saturday, my son, oh my God, we had guests over.
okay.
And he was one boy and all girls, like 5 girls. And I felt bad for him, yes, like they don't want to play with it. So he started nagging everybody. So I was telling him nicely, don't do it, enough. I was playing with him. He still bothered. So he was punished not going to Chuck E. Cheese's with my husband and my daughter. So he was punished, he was stayed home. He threw everything out. You name it, whatever you want was on the floor. Like this, he was angry, and I'm like, do whatever you want. You can throw yourself as well. He did it, and then after hour of doing it, he calmed down. What do you do in this situation?
So here, I have a situation here. So let's say your daughter or your son, okay? You told her that she cannot go to play in her friend's house. And she's furious, and she's upset, and she's she's getting wild. She does whatever you say that your son was doing, messing everything and getting there. And you tell her, I know that you feel very disappointed now. You acknowledge that she feels bad, and you understand that she feels bad about the situation. I feel you. I know that you're not happy with the decision, but that was the decision. And then you tell her, I don't like the way that you're handling this. I don't like the way that you're screaming or that you're there or whatever. And I'm leaving the room, fix whatever you did here, and then I'll come and talk to you, It's his obligation to come back to normal. He made a mess. He has to come back to normal, and then you're going to continue talking.
What happens if he says, no, I don't want to? How you do it?
No.
How you make him do it?
No, I'm not talking to you. Usually
he says, I don't care.
No. Usually the kids, you don't pay attention. They need you more than, you need them on a daily basis. Okay. You may tell him, please give me the diaper, or please give me this, book from the other room. But he needs you more. Mommy, I need this. Mommy, I need that. You say, I'm not listening until... And you may say that. Okay. You may say that.
But it has to be done on a consistent basis.
Sometimes you teach them, but you're not screaming. Some kids, you tell them one thing to do something and they don't listen. Another time, and they just don't listen. When they come to talk to you and ask you something, you may say, I'm not hearing. I'm not hearing. And you can tell that's what you did last time.
Yeah.
You don't have to scream. We just said that's what you did
They
last
will
time.
scream at you, mommy, why you not answering? Why you not doing?
But once you keep yourself calm, they will get calm too. They will get upset in the beginning, yeah, but then they will learn. This is not the way to reach to my parents. This is not the way. They will learn. אין ברירה, ככה זה.
I'll try.
But this, now I want to come to the bond, to the kesha, to the communication, to the special connection that should be between parents and children. Jesse had a very, very big family. He had 12 brothers and sisters. And so, to provide such a family, you can understand that the parents were working very hard, day and night, just to provide for this family. The father really used to wake up early in the morning, go to work very hard, come late at night, and the mom too. So you can understand that this boy that I'm talking about, right? Emotionally, he was missing a lot. Because the parents provided, there was food on the table, the mother always makes sure that there's ready food on the table. But who had time to ask them, so how was your day in school? And show me your homework. Parents couldn't handle that. It was too much for them. So they didn't follow, the grades, they didn't follow what they learned. The father never opened a book and said to his son, come sit next to me. And it was very hard for him, to Jesse. And he missed that very much, and it bothered him very much. And but it's all right. He was very average in school, very quiet boy, shy. One day, his regular teacher got sick, and for about 2 weeks, he couldn't come to school. 2-3 weeks, he was absent. So instead, they brought a substitute. Now this substitute didn't know the boy, didn't know the other classmates, and he had a rule. 2 boys cannot share one book, because once 2 boys sharing one book, they talk, they're not focused, they're not listening, and he didn't like that idea. Now Jesse came from a poor home, and he couldn't afford his own book. So the other teacher knew that, but this teacher, he didn't know, and he's like, where's your book? Next time you're not coming with a book, you're going to stay out of the class. And so next time he didn't have a book because he couldn't afford it, and he stayed out of class. The teacher was very upset. The friends though, they knew, they wanted to see if the next time it was going to happen the same thing. The next time again he couldn't bring money for the book, he couldn't, so again the teacher put him out. Now he looks like he's a cool boy, and he gets some compliments from his friends, and he gets some attention. Once he's starting to get attention, negative attention, but he gets attention, acknowledgement that he's cool, that he's there, and he starts to do all kind of mischiefs and all that, and he gets attention, and he liked that. He became different. He wasn't like that. He was shy. He was a quiet boy, and also he gets attention. And the teacher sends notes, but the parents, they don't care anyway. And once his own teacher came back to school, he realized that Jesse became a totally different boy. It's not the same boy that he knew. It took him such a long time to put him back in track and to make him normal again. This Jesse, when he grew up, also, it bothered him very much that when he was young, the parents didn't really pay attention to his needs, to his emotional needs. They were not there for him, when he was young. So he made sure that he was even overprotecting his kids to make sure that they won't stay alone like he stayed. And he was on top of them and involved, sometimes even too much, but that's how he felt that he needs to deal with the situation. Today we live in this kind of a society, in this kind of a situation, this kind of a time, when it becomes sometimes ridiculous. Father, mother, child sits in a table to eat. He has a phone, she has a phone, he has a phone. Everybody is busy texting to their friends. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to communicate with the whole world, but they don't communicate with each other. Mm-hmm. It's silly, but that's what happens. So, the communication, the bond between parents and children is very, very important. Nathan was a very, very busy businessman. Busy, too much busy. Always, always, always. Whenever he used to come home, he was always with one cell phone and another cell phone and another. Doesn't say hello to the kids, doesn't sit with them, doesn't ask them, what did you learn? And to one of his little son, 10-year-old son, it really bothered him. And one day he comes home, and even before he says hello to the family, he gets this phone call. He answers the phone now, usually to the managers that he works with, to the suppliers that he works with, okay, with all anything to do with his business. He answers very calm on the phone. Hello, and how can I help you? And even though he's overstressed and he's busy and everything, he hears it's his son, the 10-year-old son. A minute ago he was home. All of a sudden he disappeared, and he's asking him, "Where are you?" He says, "I went outside to talk to you, to call you." He says, "Why?" He says, "Well, usually when somebody from the outside call you, you answer very calmly hello, and you spend all the time with them, and you talk to them. I also want this quality time with you, so I went outside to talk to you." See how little kids, they want this attention, they want this bond with the parents. Now, when they're young, they want it and demand it. But when they get older, they don't need this anymore. Once the parents are not there for them when they're younger, when they're older, when they become to the time of the teenage, they don't need this anymore. And this is when the parents are seeking for this bond, and this is when it's so hard to get it. And we want to prevent these mistakes. We don't want this to happen. So it says in Tehillim, כחיצים ביד גיבור, כן בני הנעורים. אשרי הגבר אשר מילא אשפתו מהם. King David says that the same way that the warrior, as he wants to, there's a target, okay, and he wants to aim the target, and he has his bow and arrow. The closer that he gets to the target, the easier it's to hit the inside, the target. The further he goes, the harder it is to get to the target. That's basically what he says. So, when we speak about kichitzim biad gibor, is usually the explanation is that you shoot the kids that are the arrows. You shoot them in their teenage. Okay, whatever you instill with them, whatever you taught them, as they grow up, they will be able to teach it to their children, or to apply all whatever you taught them. That's the usual explanation. But here they say that the closer you get to the target, the easier to get to there, exactly to the point. Basically, to get close to our kids, to be connected, to be interested with what interests them. If it's interesting him, your son, sports, be interested. It's better that he shares with you, that he tells you what he likes, what he doesn't like, than you telling him, "Oh, I don't understand anything in sports, I don't care about it." Mm-hmm. If your daughter is interested, let's say, in fashion, and tzanua, not tzanua, doesn't matter, you are interested in what's interesting her, she can talk to you about certain things, and you can speak like, you're sharing ideas and you hear what's in her mind. But if you tell her, "Oh, you don't have a good taste, you don't know anything," she may tell you the same, and she will. And that's the end of this. You're not talking about this anymore. It's more important for her to know what her friends tell about this topic than whatever you say about this. In the teenage, that's what matters to them. They are more interested in their friends. They're not interested about what you say, about how you think, how you see things. And so this is this teenage. Teenage is this time that they say it's a very stormy time, very confusing to the children, and very painful too. The kid is living his world. the youth world that was so protective, that is so known to him, that hopefully was loved, and he's living to the unknown. He's living it to something that he doesn't know what to predict, how to think about this. He himself doesn't know. You know, their emotions change extremely from one to the other at this time. Even themselves, they don't understand why. At a certain moment, he can feel embarrassed about his parents. And the next moment, he needs them so deeply, even though he won't show, but he needs them so deeply. You know, at one point, he cares very much about what his friends say about him, his appearance, what gadgets he has, because that's very important for them at that time. And so at a certain point, he could be very materialistic. All of a sudden, he could be very spiritual. All of a sudden, and it fluctuates and it goes from extreme to extreme. You have to understand, it's not in their hands. You have to be supporting, you have to be there for them, you have to talk to them, be interested in, you know, they can. Sometimes he's upset that he's not understood, okay? You try to understand him, he doesn't want to be understood. He wants to be unique, he wants to find his own path in life, he wants to be independent. He doesn't know what does it mean to be independent. They don't know themselves what they want. So, the question is, do all kids have to go through this crisis of this teenage time? They say, no, it depends. They don't all have to go through this. If you give them the support, if you're there, if you build his self-esteem from a young age, okay? So then you won't have to go and fight and fight and fight to prove you who he is now. Because you always show him, you tell him you're good, you're capable, you're able, don't worry, you can do it, you can do it. You give him a pride. Which family is coming from? Was his grandfather, that his grandmother